Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! Giselle Mather, welcome to the Good, the Scaz and Rugby.
Thank you.
This picture of Giselle with the short hair.
What a ledge. It's strong. It's like highlighted tips as well, isn't it?
My sevens girls today in the session, they were incredible. I got really excited. I was going, Ferraris, Spitfires, boom, everywhere, because that's what they look like. And then someone turned around and said, but I feel like a Peugeot. And the moment went.
Hat-trick hero hunt. Headline.
Thank you. First and last time I've ever scored for England.
Talking about normally don't emotionally spike, I was a bit emotionally spiked.
Emotionally spiked.
It's Saracens, isn't it? I didn't realise we'd never beaten them.
Does this mean that when the Lions women tour to New Zealand, you will be the best placed person to coach a team made up of the four nations?
Don't look at us.
You can look at me.
You tell an athlete they're not selected, a female athlete, she will probably cry. But so, that's fine. Just because it matters, a guy might go and shut down and doesn't really communicate back with you.
I was just listening to Giselle then thinking, am I a man?
Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Happy New Year! And welcome to the Good, the Scaz and the Rugby, brought to you by our good friends from Vodafone in the year 2025. She is finally here. I mean, we've been
Goodness.
counting down.
Can we talk
And that-
about it? I don't
That
know
was
if we
a
talk
face.
about it yet.
It was a soundless face.
That was a soundless face. What is the
doesn't
point?
work
This
on
is
the
a
podcast,
podcast.
mate.
No, that's why I explained it
Oh.
for audio listeners.
What did the soundless face do? What does it mean?
It was like the emoji with like the mouth wide open and the eyes bright.
Okay.
I've not seen that one.
Coming in 2025, mate, that's why. Have you upgraded recently? Updated.
Always going to be a good episode.
Wow. Okay. So 2024 was a big year for so many reasons. Both Scaz and Mo had gone through tons of highs, tons of lows. There was getting back onto the pitch post neck surgery for our Scaz. Mo playing out of his skin for Gloucester Hartbury, which was sensational. Winning back-to-back PWR titles, another Grand Slam, another WXV1 title. Boom, boom. The drama and the unexpectedness of the year that our girls had still, however, pales in comparison to the 2024 that our guest had. She was a talented fly half in her playing days. She won a World Cup in 1994, if you didn't know. She was the first woman to earn the RFU's Level 4 coaching badge. And since then, she's coached some of the best in the game at Wasps, London Irish, and Ealing Trailfinders, only to leave the post. Big news. At the start of the season, very quickly taking up a gig with GB7s, where she's already seen success. Welcome to the show. Someone who has actually genuinely once greeted me in public, and I couldn't believe that she knew who I was. Giselle Mather, welcome to the Good, the Scaz and Rugby.
Thank you.
You also forgot under 20s coach in 19. No, joking.
In 1994?
No, in 2005, 2006.
Something like that,
Yeah.
Was she travelling with the kettle back then already?
We don't
Oh,
know.
I don't know.
News to us.
I was drinking a lot of tea, but I didn't travel with a kettle.
So we had this conversation before we started rolling with you travelling with the kettle.
At what year did you think the kettle is coming with
put that
me?
in the
How
bag.
deep into your career were you when you went, you know what, I'm just going to travel with my own kettle, that's how much I love tea?
Probably most times when we went to Canada, 2006.
Do they not have kettles?
I don't know. You just can't risk it. Just can't risk it. It's
It's
got to
so
be
funny, isn't
back
it?
in your room. But back in then, not all hotels did have a kettle in the room.
And we also didn't stay in hotels. So
Sorry,
that,
don't
to be
make it
fair.
sound that old. Back then, not
Yeah.
old.
That's myself. Did you see it? She went back there.
well,
there.
sort of, yeah.
Back with Mo and
Back in
Scaz,
those times.
we were in under
Both in school.
20s.
Yeah, we were.
You're both
We were like
in
15,
school when I
16,
first started
17.
teaching them.
Oh,
Coaching
wow.
them, teaching them. Yeah.
And what were they like back then? How different?
Not that different. Not that different, but they were. I think the whole of that squad. When I started with that, so I had been working with the seniors, and then I was asked to coach the under-20s, and it was a relatively new squad, wasn't it? To be fair, and they were out of school. They were all really, really talented youngsters, but didn't really know much about elite performance and training and doing things. They just rock up and be really good at what they were doing, but then going away. So one of the major roles I had was about, are they going to choose this as a career path? Well, I think these two chose it as a career path.
I think
Do you
a lot
remember
of us
do you
did.
remember the
Yeah, we
100
did.
Club?
That
Was
Yeah,
that
I
the
do.
year
And you
before
got a hoodie.
That was
Yeah.
it.
I don't
What's
know if
the
I ever
100
got a
Club?
hoodie.
Oh, well, you
So
didn't
that-
make the 100 Club, did
No,
you?
but I would have 100%.
So basically, the 100 Club. So because they
100%
didn't really
would
train
have.
away from
Keesey
that.
still wears hers.
Yeah.
She does.
I got so
And
much
the
stick for
grey
that. though.
rugby
I
like
got
Nike top.
so much stick with the RFU for that.
Why?
So much stick. Anyway, that's another story.
Because
But
we weren't allowed these
Ooh.
back in the day.
yeah, but something like that. No,
Sorry.
not quite. But basically, what I wanted them to do was to train when they were away. So I developed this system of they needed to do 100 sessions before we went to Canada to play in the national. What was it called?
Nations Cup.
Nations Cup. So they had to basically record 100 sessions. So PE students, if you did a basketball session where your heart rate went to a certain level and it was a certain, that they could count it. If they did a TAS session, because TAS at the time was the Talented Athlete Scholarship Scheme, which they were all pretty much on, and they did a good TAS session, they could put it on. So recording 100 sessions, and if they reached 100 sessions, they would have a hoodie with the red rose on it and 100 Club written down the sleeve. But also the purpose of it was that when they stood in the first international that they'd play against the Canadians, they knew that they'd done more work than the Canadians and therefore had the confidence to go into that game. And that was the purpose of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of them got their hoodies.
Because stash is and always has been king.
Mm.
Everyone was like, a hoodie? Like, yes.
Yeah.
Whatever motivation
It
you
was the
needed.
year before me, by the way. That's why I never got the hoodie.
So I
Okay.
did 2 years with Giselle. We did an under-19s year in, it would have been 2004-5, and then an under-20s year because the age group changed in 2005-6, which is when the year Mo came in.
And that's when we played it.
Nah, Scaz, if you want
But
me to
no.
take the conversion. Do you know
It's my
this
And
story?
they won the
story.
final. They won the final.
No, yeah,
110.
110-0.
And
That
they-
was your last
that was
game.
the year after,
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah,
it?
you
That
were
was
gone to
6-7.
seniors by then.
I definitely got my years wrong because I think I just put myself at 14 playing in the under-19s.
Yeah.
It was a bit older than what
That's
I
all right,
said.
though.
Well, it's scary. I mean, anything's
2007
possible.
Just for someone
2010.
who's going to look at it and be like, really?
Yeah,
And
and
What?
Mikey
Scaz
and
was
I just
40.
stood there and we were just like, wow.
Wow.
And actually, that was my last. I stopped.
But you
after
hadn't told us.
No, I know.
So Giselle didn't tell us that it was her last game. So we like went out and like put this performance in and everyone was really revved up for it. And then after she like announced it and we were all gutted, weren't we?
Oh.
But I remember, I think it was it Marley's?
Mhm.
Granddad had a scoreboard. Someone had a scoreboard and basically they like ripped off one of the ones and put it on the like side. So there's a photo because it was 110-0.
Wow.
What, because it wouldn't
Mental.
go up that high?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
obviously you stop at
flicked back
99.
round.
Yeah. So they like had to like, I don't know why someone had a peg, probably my grandma, but they like pegged it on the side.
But they were so good, and that literally the decisions they made. So they kicked when they should have kicked, even though the score was what it was. They kicked when they should have kicked. They played when they should have played, and we both were like, "Wow,
Wow.
yeah."
It's
It
because
was
you had
special.
a sister in at 15.
Yeah.
Just feeding the speed.
Mo played 15 back in the day.
Oh.
Wing. She was wing.
Who was it? Someone on the wing. One of the wingers got like no tries, and one of them got 6. I remember that. Can't remember, but yeah,
Yes.
mad. Very
And-
good.
And Bulletproof was our song. Do you
Yeah.
remember?
I'm bulletproof.
There you go.
Nothing to
That was our
fear.
song that year.
And then could you ever imagine that 18 years later we're all sat back on the sofa together on a podcast?
At that time, no.
Isn't that wild?
But the amount of you that stayed in and have become the key core to the Red Roses is quite extraordinary,
Remarkable.
actually.
Why did you get in trouble about the 100 Club hoodie?
I knew you'd come back with that.
Yes.
So basically with that, I had asked permission. I said, look, can we fund having hoodies, etc. for this? And it was Carol Isherwood that said yes, of course. But then it was, why do they need a hoodie? Is representing the shirt enough? I was like, look, they're youngsters, and there's a purpose behind what I'm trying to do. And yeah, there was a big furore about it. That why was I doing that? Because maybe the seniors didn't. I said because they're new to it. I want them to want to be in it. I want them to work to strive for something, and they need a reward when they've done it because that's what I believe in.
And do you know what the best thing about it is? That's the first thing that Scazzy brought up.
There you go.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was important. So,
100%.
What was your first impression of Giselle?
I don't even know if I remember, but I just remember things like the 100 Club, things like instilling that.
go beyond.
Yeah,
That was-
like that
that was
professionalism
our,
piece. Because when I first
Okay,
came
not
into
hers.
it, I was 15, 16, coming into the under-19s program at the time. So I had a TAS S&C that used to come into my school. So I was doing like my GCSEs and then was doing my A-levels. Andy Payton used to come to my school and do sessions. So it was that bit of, yeah, you're naturally talented and you've got a bit about you, but actually these are the next bits to it. And yeah, just like the best memories. Like I had to do something at Loughborough the other day. We do this thing in 3 pictures.
Listening.
Huh?
Listening.
It's nothing tactical.
Taking notes?
Save that for the weekend.
Yeah.
It's like not your life in 3 pictures, but three pictures that help explain your journey. Are you in it?
Did I make it?
I think you would have made it as part of one of the pictures.
Excellent.
But one of the pictures was my under 20s picture in Canada, just because of like how important I think that stage was for me personally, but also like the group and the memories and everything. It's like it's so hard to replicate now because it's professional and it's arguably way more serious, and you're obviously just in a way different part of your life.
But I would argue with that. I would say that it should still be. The memories, so you're talking about that. When I look back on my career, it's those things that are important. When you talk to athletes now, it's those. Well, you all of you at Gloucester, you talk about things like that all the time.
Yeah.
If those things are there, high performance follows. In my mind,
for
in
sure.
my mind.
So,
But I do think you go in a transition, don't you, through your life of like we not a care in the world.
Yeah.
Hopefully, just passed an A level or 2.
Yeah.
Like it's completely different to
First
obviously.
time away abroad as a group, with a group on tour, all of that stuff.
so
Yeah.
when we were away on tour, like
You
this
about to
was
talk about the volleyball?
no. Love, but no. This was like one of our first times like away, and my mum, dad, and little sister had flown over. Randomly, ended up in the same hotel as Julie Packer, so they're like really good mates now because they were checking in with the surname Packer. So mum was like, "Excuse me, do you know Marley?" And then like they got talking. Anyway, mum was dead nervous because it was like the first game of the tournament, and she was like really worried. Like, we're very new to this. It was one of my first games. We had 2 against Wales before we flew out, and was like,
Hat-trick hero Hunt headline.
"Thank you."
Oh.
Gloucestershire.
Yeah, first and last time
News.
I've ever scored for England. But anyway, we moved. Yeah, mum was like dead nervous about us before we were going out for this game. She said they rocked up to the college quite early, came around the corner, and me, Scaz, and Keats were having a three-way piggyback.
Three-way piggyback. I've still got the picture.
It's so good.
Have you ever
Obviously-
tried doing a 3-person piggyback?
Yeah.
I don't understand this.
So Keats is
Keats
the
is
base,
bottom.
obviously.
Bottom, obviously, yeah.
I'm glad Mo wasn't.
Imagine.
She's made of sturdy stuff.
Yeah.
Then it was me on Keats's back, and then Mo's on my back.
But why?
Scaz's legs nearly touched
Why
the floor. Just not. But my mum
Because it's one of
basically,
those things like, do you think we could do a 3-person piggyback?
I don't even know how we got there, but basically we were just like absolutely creasing, and my mum's just come around the corner like, yeah, no, all right. Like, she'll be all right,
So
actually.
instilling professionalism, Giselle. Did you guys have an awareness then of who, like Giselle was a Rugby World Cup winner 10 years prior?
Do you know what?
Did that penny
don't
ever
think
drop?
so.
I'm ashamed to say
No,
that I
I'm
didn't.
ashamed as
Yeah.
well. Because we didn't watch it growing up.
No.
Couldn't.
Yeah.
We probably... And Giselle would not have come in, type of person she is, being like, "Hi, I'm Giselle Mather. I won the World Cup in 1994. I played for half, got this many caps, da 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 da." So, like, why, almost like at that time, who was telling us?
Yeah.
Because we
think-
couldn't see it, we didn't know.
Also, for me, like I was always in netball, so like I wasn't even in the sport until the year that I'd like managed to get into that.
So,
And you
so
were-
this
she-
picture,
but she
this
was
picture of
horrendous.
Giselle with the short hair, for example.
What a ledge!
It's strong, it's really strong. It's like highlighted tips as well, isn't it?
So if you are listening to this, there is an iconic image here
Classic Scaz.
of Giselle in the 90s.
Well, the person who's holding him out is Paula George.
Yes, there's
Who's
Paula
also-
George holding
yeah,
you up.
yeah.
Of course. Talk us through this hairstyle phase.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Fashion.
Because, yeah, and because at the time we were, I was playing sport all the time.
Yeah.
It was really useful. I used to every morning, I'd wash it, get up, turn my head upside down, and that was it. That's all I had to do. And after playing and everything, but as I say, my kids, they just look at it and they go, "Mum, I had that haircut for
Because it's
10
really
years."
short on 90% of your head,
Yeah.
and then it has a
And then a
fringe
really
in the
long
front.
fringe, and still.
Yeah,
Same,
I was
that's
going
the
to
way
say, you
I'm
were
not
clever
over.
without a fringe.
Yeah, ever.
So you had this whole era as Rugby World Cup winning fly half for England, and then you come into camp with these girlies and they have no idea.
No.
And you...
I think when I started coaching, it was literally a decade later, and so from my point of view, it wasn't really started to be acknowledged that my group won the World Cup until much later. So I went through probably 20 years when no one really talked about it. And then all of a sudden, people started talking about it. I was like, oh, and I get people now introduced saying World Cup winner, but that didn't happen for about 20 years, to be fair.
Mo wants to speak.
I've
She's
really,
put her hand up about 4
I've
times.
really got something on this.
If you're listening
Like,
to this,
obviously-
most index fingers flying. It's having a field day.
Classic Natasha. So basically,
I'm worried now.
you're
What's the
really
question?
big for inspirational people and bringing a group together with stuff like that. That's how I see you, like as in empowering people like that. Did it never cross your mind to like speak about how you got there in your journey? Because that, like 1994 journey is like ridiculous. And the more you hear about it, the more you're like, wow, and totally in all of it.
But
why
you are,
didn't
you
ever?
are, I think you are now, but when you were 17, 18, that wouldn't have been important to you
Do
at
you
all.
not think?
Don't think so.
You
Don't
just
think
said
so.
we hadn't changed.
Yeah.
No, I'm only playing, sorry.
No, but you will have changed in terms of how you view things.
Yeah, I get you.
But and the experience now you've had and the journeys that you've had. But at the time, that wasn't really relevant. That was a player I never saw it as particularly relevant. What was relevant was where you guys were going to go. And I think the bit that I did bring was, do you want to have this as a career?
Yeah.
Is this a pathway you want to go down? And I remember talking to Marley down at, we were in, which place were we in? We were
Yeovil?
training camp.
Oh.
No,
Haythorpe Park.
yeah, or
It was big.
Army barracks.
Oh, yeah.
No, that was a different story.
RAF
wasn't it?
Holton.
Oh, yeah, RAF Holton.
Yeah,
Haythorpe Park was nice.
Yeah. and went for a walk with Marley down to the...
probably Haythorpe.
Down to, there's some stables there and there were 3 horses there.
Definitely Haythorpe.
And we talked for about 20 minutes around what she was going to do, what she wanted to do. Did she want to go and be part of rugby, or where could rugby take her, and all of this? And she was at a real decision phase about what her life was going to be, and rugby has been amazing for Marley, obviously. And I wonder if she remembers those 3 horses that we just shared the conversation with
She
us
would,
as
100%.
we talked.
At that time, did you, because it wasn't professional,
No.
the senior girls weren't professional, and they
No.
were probably still quite a long way
Mm.
off as well, if you
I
think
think the
that is
National Lottery was around,
2007.
Because
I
you
was
were
gonna say-
TAS,
Fine.
and paid by TAS.
So did you foresee it becoming professional at a certain
yeah.
point? Fine,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
why
yeah.
you're having those conversations.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I did.
But it's not even
But
just the professional
I was
bit,
young.
it was what it gives your life.
Right.
So when I look back at 94, I paid a fortune to play, to be fair, if I look back on that. But it's what's given, what the memories that I have from that, and what it made in my life, and how the people, if I see them now, it's within seconds. It's back to that relationships that you had out there, the work, the things we did together. And I think that's probably what it was more for. Do you guys want that? Because I knew what that was. And so I don't think I said it but I knew what it was. And I
Right.
know what the sport can give you, not just in terms of cash and not having to do other jobs and things like that. I don't think I necessarily saw that for you guys. But what I did see was what it can give them. And they were such a talented group. I mean, you don't win 110-0 without being a talented group. And I just looked at it and thought, these guys could have that. These guys, and because the World Cups were happening, I was like, well, these guys can play in a World Cup. And I think that was what I talked about in terms of pathway.
This is really interesting for me because as an outsider, my perception of this generation of England player and their success, not to undermine how talented and brilliant they are, but a lot of people chalk it down to the fact that England is so much further along on the path to professionalism than many other countries. And so obviously England is this good. Obviously they're winning by this much. Obviously they've gone and defended their Grand Slam and their WXV1 title. But it is interesting that you're talking about this group and these really incredibly talented group of players with this much potential at that stage, and being there and seeing that.
And because I was back there, I know the work they've done in that time to be where they are now. So, okay, they've had some support systems around them, but they still have to do the work to be that best. And I know that I'm not saying other countries haven't done that work. I'm not saying that. But when that gets belittled, they're because they've got everything. You can have as much as you like. You've got to do the work.
But you also need to have the Giselles at the right stage of your career having these conversations with you.
I think so.
Yeah, there are coaches in grassroots sport, not just rugby, all across the country that are inspiring little people everywhere.
I think that is the under 20
Scaz
bracket
wasn't that
now.
little.
Yes, Scaz was never little.
She came
But
out.
I didn't have you at 13, did I? Do you
No.
remember? I thought she would be a world class fullback.
Still.
Banana
Sorry, Scazzy, what you
split.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still.
Still remember the move.
I
The
still
names, the
hold
moves.
Scaz, I used to be
still
on the
see
wing
she
outside
remembers the moves.
Scaz.
That's so
That's why I
cool.
was
I know.
hat-trick
That's so
hero.
cool. Banana split. Done.
No, I'm not even joking. She literally passed me like 3 absolute pearlers. One I had to work a little bit for, but
Oh,
the other
God.
2,
And these two working together, 15, 14. And then you
Dream.
played
Yeah,
some,
we both playing different positions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were actually the dream.
I
Like,
still stand by the fact that I would have wished you'd stayed at
she just
15.
used to slice through these lines, and you just
Yeah.
used to chase her
That's why it was called a banana split. Get it?
split because she was through the middle.
That's creative.
So creative.
No, I was just going to say, I personally think, like, having good coaches and people that understand you as individuals and stuff is super important. But I genuinely think at that age, so under 20s can be 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, can't they? I genuinely think that at that age, you're so impressionable. You're so naive a lot of the time, young, inexperienced, all of those things, that actually having the right person at that age group, I think, can make the biggest difference. So
Totally
you either go or you kind of don't fit in the system.
Meander along a little.
You've obviously been around it a while now as well. Do you think, like, obviously you just said about the cash being like a big driver for people this day and age?
Speak for yourself.
Do you think, where is it?
Yeah, we haven't found it yet.
But do you think like that instilling of like the work rate and the hard work and everything like that is still apparent, or do you think, like, do you have any sense that that has wavered a bit, because you've obviously coached in the game now for this whole span?
The way I view the money side of things is that it gives athletes opportunity to train, to recover, to do stuff, which is why, even though it's only a little bit of money that's in PWR, most athletes now can say leave work at 4 and come to training and do more, or can take a day potentially off work to recover. And people go, what? They're not actually training in that time. And they don't necessarily understand how necessary that is, because I have, in a club rugby that I've done, I have athletes that get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, go to work, travel wherever they're doing, do a full day's work, then they come and do a full day's training, exactly what the male counterparts have done in their full-time roles. And then they finish, and then they go back home. They get in at 10:30 at night. They've then got to cook. Back in the day, and I actually think one of the biggest things that is when they get fed supper straight afterwards. I know that sounds so ridiculous, but it means that they don't pick up rubbish from the garage on the way home if they're long drivers. They don't have to cook when they get back. They don't have to have done meal prep before, and it's such a big thing, because nutrition, obviously, major recovery tool, getting that in, and sleep, 2 of the major things. And so for me, that's how I view the money, because at the moment, the money isn't enough to live on. No. It is if you're fully contracted Red Rose, but for the PWR players, and then that has to happen, because otherwise the gap between the Red Roses and the PWR players would get bigger and bigger and bigger. So we need to put money into those PWR players to give them the opportunity to train and to do other things. And when that opportunity has come, look at how it's gone every year, because there's a little bit more money, a little bit more time. I think we are getting to a point that players can't give anymore unless they can go physically
100%.
1 day, 2 days, 3 days. I don't think, and I do worry about that, that players are
really squeezed at the minute.
And they're so tired. And this particular year, the way that the league is set in order that World Cup can work, and over the weekends and this particular period, the conditions are really bad on the fields, and everyone's terrified, because if you don't get these games in, the semi-final is going to arrive before everyone's finished playing. And there is no room to move it, because
how tight the league is.
You've got Six Nations the next day after it, virtually.
Can I just say something on the meal situation, just because we've mentioned Laura Keats a lot, and she was a huge part of our under-20s life. So she's now obviously at Loughborough. She lives kind of like Worcester, Birmingham way. So it's a decent journey for her to come to Loughborough. So what she does is, we get food, but only 1 night a week. So what she does the rest of the time is basically whatever she's had for dinner the night before, she just puts it in a wrap for the next day. So the other day I was like, we were walking back to this is
I don't even know what's coming, but I love it.
So we're walking back to the car. I was like, oh, what you got today, mate? She was like, sausage and mash.
In a wrap.
Sausage and mash with gravy in a wrap, wrapped in foil. Brilliant. She's an amazing human being.
Anything can go in a wrap. Brilliant. Laura Keats says so. I'm not disagreeing.
She stands by it as well. Not an ounce of she was all in.
Was it wet?
I didn't ask too many questions.
But like the gravy in it.
Yeah, it must have been a bit soggy.
Soggy wrap.
She was not complaining.
Wow.
And she ate it cold.
Yeah, double carbs.
Cold mash.
Yeah.
And on the topic of graduating and building a
Sorry,
ramp,
I had to bring that in. Sorry.
Building a ramp between the resource, the standards of resource that you have available between the international game and the club game, and then down from the club game into the uni pathway that feeds into that club game. You are one of the mentors on our Vodafone EmpowHer project.
So Natalia I invited her to camp, and she's been at the session today. She's watched the session today.
So give us the background on Natalia.
So Natalia, that was who you gave me as to mentor. So we've had a couple of conversations. I've helped her with some of the, she leads what it is she wants to talk about. So we were talking about drills for a certain thing because she coaches boys down at the university. So we talked about that. And then I said to her, look, we're in Wales. Would you like to come to the camp? And so she came and observed the session, and Snowy was at the camp. And so Snowy stood with her and was chatting to her about things that were going on. And so I rang her on my way home because didn't have a lot of time to talk with her there. Rang her on my way up here and said, what did you think? How did you? And she said, Snowy was talking me through everything, and she said it was really valuable and what have you. So, and we'll connect again when I get back from Perth.
I love that. So just for context, just to give the backstory here, she plays for Cardiff Met's performance team, plays 10 with aspiration to play at a high level. And as you say, she's been coaching the male program, first woman to be coaching in the male program at Cardiff Met. And she has been described by Illona Snowsell, or Snowy as you call her, and Lisa Newton, as a trailblazer. So getting her currently coaching phase 3 and minis and juniors, and developing her coaching skill set at this stage under someone like you, but also with the guidance of Snowy, as you say. I mean, this is dream come true stuff. I mean, even Mo said, I wish Giselle would be my mentor.
That would
Still
be cool.
chance.
Yeah, I know. But I'm coming to you when I finish playing anyway. So.
What do you get out of the mentoring?
I'll hold you to that. As a coach, that's what you do, isn't it? You help people to be better at what they want to do. And when people aspire to do things the very best, that motivates me too. I guess I travelled my journey as a female coach kind of isolated, I guess, in ways. Not that it bothers me. It's not, no, not even really. I've just gone with it. It's not been a thing. Well, it has, but you just get on with it because you want to do it. I love what I do. So, but if I can help female coaches to progress, then why wouldn't I do that?
Do you see it as part of your role, or do you genuinely really enjoy it?
I genuinely enjoy it, but yeah, I guess there's I feel the responsibility a bit as well, because there has been moments where, I was the only female in the whole performance department, and Jodie was also, she was a physio in London Irish, and that's what it was. So the two of us, and God knows how many testosterone here, there, and everywhere. So, and there's moments where you're in situations, and there's assumption, I guess, that a female wouldn't know, or doesn't this or doesn't that. And I took the whole of the ACE for the boys. ACE set it up at London Irish, so I had 8 boys to start with in my first year, and that was challenging. 3-4 sessions a week with 8 athletes, of which sometimes they were not able to participate or what have you. So that really challenged me to find my skill set and, what have you. And then the next year we went to 24, and I said, yeah, we can compete with that. And everyone's going, yeah, but the injuries. But I said, we can compete with that. And we did. And it was fabulous. And now someone like David Cece went on. He came to that programme as a Hampshire County 2 forward. The S&C I had at the time, a guy called Andre Quinn, incredible with those boys. And literally after 2 years, they'd be putting on like 15, 16 kgs of, because their bodies, but their bodies were at that stage, again, like you say, when you're at the right age. So 16 to 18, these boys were desperate for premiership contracts, so they did what they were told, doing their A-level studies or BTECs alongside it in the local school. And that was fabulous, but I was the only female. I sat in my meeting yesterday with the management team staff meeting, and I suddenly went, and it was male, 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 male.
Your
male,
GB.
Male, me. Yeah. So it's still a thing in the sense that you are different by the very nature of being female. Yeah. But you're not different because of rugby and what have you. So it's a real balance. So Natalia, she's about to start that journey, and if I can make something just that little bit easier, and other female coaches just that little bit easier, and I think as soon as there are female coaches, suddenly there's more. You've got to sit to be it, haven't you? And people then start going, yeah, we can do this. And now how you go through and have your children alongside, because when I do look back, at one point I was coaching you guys, so England under-20s, London Irish Ace, Teddington Antlers men, and I had 3 children under 6. And when I look back at that, I go, how in God's name?
How did you do this?
I actually look back at that and go, now, I have a philosophy about how the game should be played. So funnily enough, my 3 teams are playing with that kind of philosophy.
Diamond ball.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff like that. So she remembers names as well. But I got caught with that sometimes where a certain name would be different because of the themes that were different, because of those things I did do differently, because it depends on the athletes that I'm coaching and the reasons why they're playing the game.
Yeah.
So each of the teams was different. The boys, the young lads at London Irish wanted to play to get contracts. These guys were playing performance sport at international level, and then my Teddington Antlers were all about the connection of being with each other. They absolutely loved playing the game, and then they'd go and party and social together, but the game was really important before they did that. So there was so much going on there, but sometimes I'd call it something and everyone just look at me and go, wrong name, wrong name. We're doing this. So I did double up with lots of stuff, and the philosophy of the game was very similar, but each team was in different spaces as to what they needed. But then my 3 kids, and Rox at that time was already started on her gymnastics, so I used to take her to Heathrow Gym 3 times a week as well. So I'd finish and I'd race out the door, grab her, feed her in the car, not sausage wraps with whatever, but with gravy.
I still can't process how
I should have had Keeks at that time to tell me what I should have done. Race her there, and Jasper was playing football, and he now plays semi-pro football.
Does he?
Roxy's dancing. Good. So all of these things that we did, Barney's into his cricket, and we were rushing. Although we do with the youngest one.
How old's Roxy now?
She's 22. I know that ages you.
That's how old you are.
Sorry for the kids' listeners, my mouth just dropped.
Kids age you, but yeah, she's just finished a dance performance degree.
Crikey.
And is now hoping to get her first break in being signed for professional work.
Wow. So you managed to coach 3 children through childhood, and they're all
no wonder you drink so much tea. I get it.
Well, functioning adults
I totally get it now.
Yeah. So, but I have to be honest, when I do look back on that, I'm like, how did that happen? How did we organise that? And obviously my husband was amazing, that he would be out working and then tag at the door. I'd be off coaching and all of this. But yeah, it was an interesting time.
There's this quote in the Telegraph that producer Shara found that I thought is just absolutely priceless, from 2017 when you did your coaching badge. 100 guys in the room and me. That's my normal day. It doesn't faze me. When I was going for my level 3, I'd given birth to Roxy. 6 weeks previously. I knew I was ready to take the level 3, and I remember ringing up the RFU telling them that I had to bring my daughter because I was feeding. And when you're doing your level 3, then you did 24 hours where you stay overnight. So I said, I need to bring her. If she screams, I'll take her out. I appreciate if I fail as a result, so be it. It's my responsibility. And the RFU rang me back and said, as long as you are discreet.
100 guys in the room, I'm really going to go, woo, latch on. Am I really going to do that? It's like, oh, wow.
As long as you're discreet, just don't whip your nipple out in front of the whole place, please.
Exactly. But she was amazing.
I did not expect the word nipple to come out on the podcast we had Giselle
last week.
I mean, we could call it, we could say it's
Did it.
it's here right next to it.
There it is. But yeah, with that, she was amazing that weekend because she was 6 weeks. I had the little rocker top here and I had the papoose here. So when she was awake, I put her in there and I had to do the things on the board and my presentations and what have you. And she was perfect. Then I'd feed her, she'd go to sleep, and we could just carry on. When it came to leave, I tried to put the thing in the car. She went berserk, absolutely berserk. It was like I'll keep quiet for 24 hours. And now you're going to get
now
it.
It's done.
And I really, I couldn't drive. I had to wait for an hour to calm her down.
Oh my goodness!
I don't know why. She was 6 weeks. She didn't tell me why, but she just went berserk. But she was amazing. And the interesting thing with that, and this is where I'm a massive believer in, opportunity comes from all over the place. So you give what you can at what you're doing, and you never know what's going to come next. And that's where we're at with Rox, with her dancing. Is she's got to take in as many opportunities, go see, and there might be that one person who goes, that's who I want to do in the next music video or whatever it is. Anyway, Toby Booth, who obviously first class coach, etc., was in my group of 3, on level 3. So there were 4 of us with an assessor, and he had to listen to me talk rugby for 24 hours, and I had to listen to him. Then we go away for a year. I was coaching at Wasps at the time, so you get assessed on that as well. Then you come back in at the end of the year for another one of those things, and at that stage, Rox was old enough to not be with me, but again, out of all the coincidence of the 100 people in the room, Toby and I were put in a group again. So we listened to each other all the way through again. And then 4 months later, he rang me and said, I'd like you to come and coach at the London Irish development groups.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
That's
that
really cool.
opportunity, because he'd seen and thought, he didn't care that I was female, that it was anything. He said, we want you to do this. So I did. In that group that I coached was Marcus Watson, Anthony Watson, Jonathan Joseph, Alex Corbusario, all at 14 years of age, doing their thing. And so Tommy Homer was another one in that group. They were, and I'm worried I've left other people out of that now, but it was an incredible group of guys that I coached through in those sessions through till they were 18. And then at that stage, when my youngest son would reach 4.5, I was ready to go back to full-time work. And they said, right, we're setting up the London Irish scheme. You're a teacher and a level 4 coach job. And
So you
that's
were
when
a
I became
PE
a full-time
teacher
coach.
until you did your level 4?
So so I did that until Jasper was born.
Oh, okay.
So I went back for a little. I couldn't leave my kid behind. I was terrible with that. I don't know why.
And how old's Jasper?
He's 24 now.
Oh,
He's
wow.
24. Yeah.
Remember kicking balls around with him after games and stuff? Yeah.
Absolutely. And actually, he came. This is going further back. I took an England A development tour. That was the first tour I ever took. He was 8 months old at that time, and he had to come on tour. And he had, 25, 30 mums with him. So he's passed around at breakfast weather. When we finished tour, it was only 10 days, but it was crazy. It was full on 3 internationals in 10 days. That's what they did those days.
Mad, we used to do that.
3 internationals in 10 days. That was in 2001. And we then came back and he had tour blues. So the following morning, he's like 8 months old. He's going, where is everyone? Not speaking,
It's
but
a
you
real
can see.
But
thing.
really,
It is.
It
So
happens, yeah.
everybody buzzing around and all the noise and everything, and then you go home and it was quiet.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm not happy with this.
No.
So anyway,
I'm so interested in you always talking about wanting to know what people's why is as a point of departure for how you coach. So why is this group? What is it that fired the girls? What is it that the Teddington Antlers were playing for? So that's your point of departure, which sounds obvious, but that is a lot of emotional labor that you are doing, because you are going to fetch them where they are. What is it? What is their why? And you're doing this across multiple teams. And then you've got 3 children for whom you're also doing this, because a toddler doesn't compensate. You're the one who's compensating. The amount of care and emotional labor that you invest, do you have a bottomless pit of it, or where do you recharge?
it's a good question.
Tea.
Yeah, definitely.
Is it
15
is
cups
it
of
the
that a day. I think I'm wired that way anyway. I feel it. I walk into a room and I can feel to a degree what the vibe is in the room. There isn't a bottomless pit. There are times when you go back and it
Draining.
and then you walk in the room. Coaching is about that, isn't it? It's not about, you have to be, the thing for me is about consistency, I think. And I remember when I was at St Luke's down at Exeter learning to teach, a guy came in, and again, this is another of those moments where somebody is inspired and caught hold of me with that. And he said, you have to be consistent. He said, so if you're going to teach and you walk into the classroom and you're usually morning, how's it all going? And you're full of energy and you've been out on the smash the night before and you've got a raging hangover, you can't be. You have to go in and go, morning, and you have to play the game. If you're somebody who's really grumpy and you've just won a massive amount of money on the lottery, you have to walk in and be really grumpy. You have to be consistent, because learners, children, athletes, whatever, they need consistency. If you are up and then down and up and down, the athletes are like, what's the parameters here? What's this? What's that? And you have to try and be as consistent as you can. You are only human, so there are moments when you don't get that right. But on the whole, I'm a massive believer in being as consistent around my energy and my way of being as I possibly can, so that the athletes will know. So you can't say to an athlete, it's fine to make a mistake and then go mental when a mistake is made, because then it's not fine, is it? So in the moment, you can't. So if that is something that you're about and saying you can push the boundaries, go for it, then in that critical moment where something goes horrendously wrong and we lose something big, you still can't go. Whereas if you're somebody who's going, mistakes are totally unacceptable in this environment, blah, 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 then fine. But then you'll get a different result because the players won't ever go outside their zone. their comfort of where they're at, because they don't want to make mistakes, because mistakes means they don't get selected. So it's the consistency of the message that you choose to follow that you've got to go with.
When you walk into a room and you can feel it, you say, and you can feel it's not good, what do you do?
It depends what the reason is for it not being good.
The why?
You've got to face it. You can't just pretend it's not there. Because if you pretend it's not there and you carry on,
Spirals.
Yeah, without question. And it's the same as whenever there's an issue, then that issue becomes, I'm probably
She's
hitting
laughing
something
at
for
me
you.
because I feel like that too.
Right, because if you I call it, I have a thing that's tick tock, boom. So with selection, for example, if I don't tell the athlete the real reason that I've not selected them, and I just go, look, you're doing great, but blah, blah, and it's because it's going to be difficult to tell them and uncomfortable and not nice for them to hear, or not nice for me to deliver, too uncomfortable, then the next week, guess what? The reason is still the same. The athlete's still desperate to play, but I just said, oh, carry on, you're doing great, just keep going, and then it gets to a point, say 3 weeks, 4 weeks in, they're not getting what they want because they think that they're doing okay. So then they go, she don't like me. She's got an issue with me. There's something going on here. And you'd go, because you're looking after your mate, you go, yeah, probably. And then in the session, I might just go, that wasn't good enough, which I might say to somebody anyway. And then they go, look at you, and they go, see?
Yeah.
Right? And then they perceive what it is. They will make their own meaning to whatever I'm saying. Whereas if I can be as honest as I can, they don't have to agree with me in the selection. And sometimes I'm actually quite happy that they don't, because they've got the self-belief that, no, sorry, Giselle, you've got that wrong. It's like, okay, fine, because then at least they believe in their own ability, which is what we want. But you have to tell them why, so that their perception is the same as yours, because otherwise they'll make up their own perception.
Say the thing.
Yeah. So if we've got a room full of miserable people, then I have to find out why people are miserable, because otherwise, where does that miserableness go?
Nowhere.
It festers.
Well,
it
yeah,
grows,
sorry, but as in
gets
it
bigger.
doesn't leave, does it?
Yeah,
That's
it doesn't
my point.
leave.
Yeah.
The problem, whatever the problem is, and sometimes it can be a problem that we just got to sort for longer. I don't, but you open the can of worms.
That communication piece is so crucial, because so I'm obsessed with this book called Crucial Conversations, because I have a very direct communication style. I don't know if anyone's noticed. Have you? Have you noticed that about me?
So you're quite waffly.
Yeah. But the value that I get out of that book is about having that conversation and saying that direct thing, but doing it in a way that's empowering for people.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of people, and I think you've said it before as well, the thing with coaching women and the difference between coaching women and men, and you are perfectly positioned to be able to make this comparison, is that if you're coaching many female athletes, not all, there is a big chunk of emotion that comes with a lot of it. And so you have to communicate around that emotion so that people can actually hear you through the pain, right?
100%. And the amount of male coaches I've coached with, when you tell an athlete they're not selected, a female athlete, she will probably cry if it's that important. But so that's fine. That's just because it matters, not because she's weak, not because there's anything else there. It just matters. So that's how a woman deals with it. A guy might go and shut down and doesn't really communicate back with you, because that's because it matters to him, and that's how he feels he should show it. And so for male coaches who've not experienced that, I just say, just give them a moment and then carry on. Just keep talking, because it's just their way of showing that it matters.
Do you think
that's what we're like?
Do you think you have to explain more with females as well?
They just want to know why.
Yeah.
It's cool. Just why. Why they're doing stuff, why this, why that. So, yeah.
Do you need a lot of why, Scazzy?
I don't know if Scaz is the
I
one.
was just listening to Giselle then thinking, am I a man?
But that's good. But that's good, because it's an 80-20 thing. I can't generalise, right? She's different.
She is. But that's what makes her so cool, calm and collected, and why she's been my absolute rock this whole time, because I am completely the other end of the spectrum.
And those things don't faze you. They don't faze you in the same way. You deal with them in a different way. And that's the other thing. A lot of flatline. We go female athletes, male athletes. It's not like that. There's 80. I work 80-20. 80% of female athletes will do that. 20% of them won't.
Yeah.
And men,
scared with
there's a lot of men who will show it emotionally in slightly different ways. And and should be encouraged to,
Yes.
because that's their style.
Yeah.
And if they're shutting down on their style and they don't tell you that it matters, same thing.
Sorry,
But-
the best addition that Shira's ever added
I think that was a personal note.
to the iPad. Oh, was it? It's not for sharing. She
No,
put,
really joking.
but how much has Scaz not been selected?
Well, there
But
is
it's
that too.
about not just
No.
about selection, is it? There's loads
It's
of
not,
things.
yeah.
Yeah. You
But
can.
that is true, though, because every athlete has different experiences and have different things to draw on,
Yeah.
and that makes it matter
Injuries,
more.
setbacks.
No, I
there's
know.
Loads of
Scazzy,
things.
I know.
But your
Did I
confirmation
buy them? Did I
bias,
buy?
your confirmation bias and the patterns that you inadvertently look for is informed by the pattern of your experiences past. So if you're expecting a coach to say something about some aspect of your game, it's probably informed by criticism you've had before, non-selection you've dealt with before. So it's as you say, as you start looking for that, it's a confirmation bias that starts shaping all of the trends that you start seeing, because you say to yourself, see, I knew this was always going to be an issue. But I think it is really important to be able to communicate through that, which is something that clearly you managed to do.
I'm interested that you use the word criticism, because when someone's not selected, I don't necessarily see it as criticism. And if an athlete can see it, if it's framed right, it's an opportunity to be better. So it's feed forward. It's at this moment in time, this is an elite environment. At this moment in time, you're not ready. But to be ready, this. And now I know an athlete will feel they are ready, but I've seen several where athletes have been put out too early and it does so much damage. I have seen it where athletes have been held back too long, but it's about the right moments as well as to when you do give those big opportunities, because give a big opportunity at the wrong time and it can cause...
No.
Is language something you're really conscious of? Because like listening to you always call the players athletes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's conscious or not.
I've always done that.
ladies.
Huh?
Not ladies.
Definitely not ladies.
Sometimes I will go, ladies, if they're too noisy, but when they're not listening, I will do that.
But is that as part of the bigger communication piece? Is like how you say stuff, the choice of words,
Yeah.
the maybe, because you read so many different things around. You shouldn't say don't do something. You should always say the bit you do. All of those sorts of different bits and bobs. Is that something you've consciously
I think you
thought about?
Because I've coached for so long, you see what does and doesn't. I don't think I would sit there and say it, but athlete to me, like my sevens girls today in the session we did today, it's the empty out session. It's like 15.
Is that what you call it? Empty out?
I do, yeah. It's the empty out session. It's like so
Nice.
hardcore.
Onomatopoeic.
Yeah, it's big. But they hit their max velocities first. That's what they have to do, and you should do that regularly. Stop it.
Sorry, Giselle, what does onomatopoeic mean?
It's
Mo?
like the word means don't wind me up. This is not.
This is a Mo moment.
No, it's not a moment. This is a
I'm going to
fact.
call you Mo.
So
it's
like
Tash.
bang is onomatopoeic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So it's
because
like-
the word sounds
Sounds
like
like
how
it
it is.
says.
Yeah.
Yes.
An empty out?
Empty out.
Empty out, literally as it says on the tin.
I call it that. I call it that.
Nothing left.
I don't know the athletes
Scaz.
would call it that. I call it that. Right?
Yes, it is.
Because I watch them literally.
Why are you
When I
laughing?
say empty out, it's just like, ooh.
Like you've got nothing left.
No,
Like that's
exactly.
onomatopoeic.
And
right.
today,
And
In a
today,
postcard. Right. Are you on
Can you
team
go
vote or
back,
team
back to your
Scaz?
bang example? Do that again.
Yeah, because like it's words as they
pow,
sound.
wow,
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that.
Perfect.
Empty out.
Because it's as it is. You have got nothing left
Yes,
after that
and
session.
I don't
Do you
know
understand what I'm
well,
saying?
I don't think the athlete, 100%.
Thank
And
you,
that's why I
Giselle.
use it.
Talk through it.
But that's why I use the word, but I don't know the athletes use that.
Sorry, what's happened to your eye?
Empty out. She's just laughing.
It's popping out.
And
Pow.
then, but when I watched them sprint today, because they had to hit max velocity, they were incredible to watch. The whole, I had 20 of them training, and they ran side by side,
Good numbers.
and it was unbelievable. It was beautiful to watch. They were so flat out and running, and they are athletes. That's why I use the word athletes, because that's what I was looking at.
Yeah.
They were extraordinary to watch, and they've done a big 3-week conditioning book over Christmas, and I can see. I don't need stats to tell me. I can see the difference that they've done. It was special to watch, to be fair.
Did you tell them?
Yeah, I got really excited. I was going, Ferraris, Spitfires, boom, everywhere, because that's what they look like. That's what they look like. And then someone turned around and said, but I feel like a Peugeot. And the moment went,
Who said that?
I'm
Oh,
not
not
telling
out of them.
And I went, a Peugeot? I said, well, you look like a Ferrari. Anyway, that's what I got. So the man went, boff, on the floor.
Boff, another one.
There we go.
Never heard that one.
Yeah, it's a good
Spell it
one.
for me.
A lot of people, including your GB7s girls, have been sharing this pull quote from an Emily Bidwell interview where she talks about, now she's the USA Sevens coach, for those who don't know.
Bronze medal winner.
Yeah. Care, connection, and empathy. Sometimes those qualities aren't valued. Sometimes as women leaders in the space, people think we are weak, but that is what makes us strong. And so many of your GB7s girls are sharing this, which I read a lot into what people share on the Instagrams.
I love that.
Oh. And the fact that all of your girls are sharing this makes me feel like they are saying we are feeling these things in the setup that we have now, which is really exciting and encouraging to notice. And you're nodding, so you agree with me.
I get very frustrated when people see empathy or anything like that as weakness. It's not.
It's why we've always got on.
It's I am an emotional coach. I make no apologies for that. Full stop.
Are you a crier?
Not in front of, but if there are moments when I will go, there has been moments when really, really good or whatever, but if I don't show or feel, why am I doing this? Why have I spent 25, 30 years doing this and then playing the game before? Rugby is an emotional game, be it 7s or 15s. You can't be your best without investing your emotion in it. You just can't. So you can't physically smash someone if you haven't got an emotional thing that's gone from one to the other. There's one or two athletes I've seen that don't change in that, but most have to have that. And if you get that emotion piece right, the whole team goes. But empathy is not weak. I challenge anyone to tell me that it is. Sharing about and vulnerability as well. You know, it's all part of, we're human. And my biggest coaching philosophy thing is human being before athlete. So I need to understand who does cry when they're thinking, who does refer to themselves as a Peugeot and not a Ferrari, and why they would do that, and who you know, who's playing because of the reasons that they're playing. Are they playing for themselves? Are they playing because they want to inspire other people? Are they playing because they want to make somebody else proud? All sorts of things. There's just masses of reasons. And if you understand the human, you move to a different level. If you ignore the human, we're not robots playing this game, are we? We are humans.
Have you, obviously going into GB7s, I'm sure that's been top of the list in terms of if it's part of your coaching philosophy. But how do you fast forward that? Because obviously you're pretty new still into the job, went on tour not that long ago. Like it's all happened really fast, isn't it? But actually learning about one person, let alone a group full of people, takes time.
How do you do that?
How
so
do you
many
do
people.
that? And how do you fast track something like that?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm used to dealing with a squad of 50 plus, and now I've got...
So it's halved.
Yeah, but I thought that would mean it would be easier. What it is it's more intense. Each athlete is more intense. And if you think about it, when your small group of friends, everyone like will all have a small group of friends, that relationship is really intense. And then you have more friends outside, and then you have more friends outside who you're less, so become acquaintances or whatever, and it's less intense. So that's one of the major learnings I've had, is that each one of them has more impact on me or me on them. And my other coach, you know, I mean, we've got some fabulous staff that work in the GB7's environment, and that connection is more intense. And I didn't recognise that would be the case, but like a group of really close friends, it's intense. The next bit is there, and so we're on tour with 13 athletes, so
Culture's massive.
that's intense.
Yeah. So care, communication, like what are the can you distill it? Can you distill it down to 3 things that are essential ingredients? Communication.
The communication, particularly with us, because we're not always together. So the away stuff and trying to communicate with the coaches that coach them on a more regular basis, all of that stuff, the communication is huge. But I think it's connection. So we did I try to, in every camp, a little social. Now, we've only got 4 days in camp, so people might go, well, what are you doing? Well, you can't work. So yesterday, I've got one of the leaders runs that, and we all had to send a fact about who we were, something about us that nobody else in the room would probably know, right? And then we had a quiz as to who each person was. Now, that sounds ridiculous, but I sit there writing down what everyone does just because I'm interested as to and something like Giselle's taking notes. I was like, no, I'm not taking notes, I'm writing my answers, right? But I was. And that's a connection piece, which then later brings the squad. And then we empty out today in the session, right? Everyone working so
Quite
hard
literally.
together. That's a massive connector, and the sport brings that. When you work ridiculously hard, like, you know, when you do a big gym session and you work incredibly hard,
Yeah.
you connect that way as well.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Some of
I
my
can't
favourite
get
times.
over the empty out
Onomatopoeia.
onomatopoeia.
Yeah, sorry.
Some of my favourite times.
She's doubling down.
Right, here we are. Trying to be serious. Some of my favourite times in camp is when Maudie's brought her eyebrow kit, and we've done that. Love it. I've got that
Hey,
brilliant
you've
photo
got
of
some
her.
extra skincare this week, haven't you?
Oh, Scaz, thanks for mentioning
What a
it.
segue, Scazzy.
Mo won Clinique Game Face Player of the Match at the weekend.
I saw you play the match. Congratulations. And
Thank
you
you.
scoring tries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You two rock.
back to her ways.
You two rock.
She ain't scoring any this weekend, though.
What was your throwaway line? We glossed a heartbreed if you haven't heard of us yet.
Yeah.
I
saw that
just
interview.
acknowledged all
and
of
then
the
kissed the badge.
the new
Yeah.
followers and just said, if you don't know who we are, we're Gloucester Heartbreak.
What's your Instagram handle?
Hunty one. I think it's underscore actually.
You think?
Damn it.
Come on.
Should have dropped that in
That
there.
should have pinned the
Yeah.
title
Yeah.
underneath.
Strapline. Yeah.
But no, it was actually quite sad because I'll tell you for why. I never win player of the match ever. Very, very rare. No, fact. Very, very rare. And like obviously when what's the guy's name that's was producing, and he brought it and he like pointed at me and I was like, are you serious? Me on the bench, the girls were like, you need to give that George Brock. George
you
Brock
say that
deserves
in your
that.
interview?
I did because I felt like I had to. And then even worse, doubling down on it, PWR put that she was player of the round and tagged me in it
Did they
to
tag you?
collaborate on the post. And I thought, I'm not collaborating on this.
Collaborate?
Yeah, I thought that's a little.
Did they tag Brock in it as well?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Obviously, she was unbelievable. But
Hunty
no, I was
underscore
gonna
one
say
has
you.
many followers, you see.
Yeah. They just
Cleaned
want
up
the
in that
profile.
game. Got a £50 food voucher as well.
Did you?
Buzzing. Yeah, we can use it on the
Mo's
weekend.
promised to share that with me this weekend.
Oh.
She's taking me out for
Win, lose,
pizza.
or draw.
Always.
From
As
my
long
end.
as,
Yeah.
as long as Loughborough don't beat them,
Left my
Well,
heartbreak.
unless you do what you did to Saracens, then she's not taking you anywhere.
No,
Hey.
I still will take Scazzy
What a
out for
result that
food.
is.
I know. It was fun. It was fun. I didn't realise until we did mention it in the week, to be fair, someone said it, but I didn't realise we'd never beaten them, which is quite cool.
Sorry, I loved how happy all of you were in the
Oh,
photos. It
your
actually meant so
faces.
much. It was
you know,
really
like when
cute.
you review the game, and I watched like that end scene just quite a few times because like you watched how different people do it and the bench and stuff. It was cute.
There's one
That
of
was
you
cool.
as well when Kelter scores hers and you just stand in the middle and
And I
you're
like pump. Like, talking about normally don't emotionally spike, I was a bit emotionally
you were
spiked.
emotionally spiked.
It's Saracens, isn't it?
What does that mean?
What is it you would like
If
to
there's a
tell us
team to
about?
emotionally spike you, it's them.
What were you going to say, Giselle?
I can't remember now.
Sorry.
No. No, if you can't enjoy it, why are you doing it?
Yeah, you know, for sure.
So that's the whole thing, isn't it? Trying to win. And when you do beat someone for the very first time, I remember when we did that against Harlequins as Wasps. The amount of times we'd beaten every other team in the Premiership at some point, never Quins, and then the day came.
I also think it's like it was because of like our recent results and our form and stuff. So it wasn't necessarily just beating Saracens or the win. It was like the cumulative, pent up. Thank God we've actually done one type thing.
But that is what we're trying to do. So if you can't show emotion at the end of it, it's the robot thing again. We're humans. The work that you put into that and the time that it takes. And then, I mean, Rachel Malcolm, when she was saying it, it's the first time we beat them, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's
It
what
was
it's
very
about.
cool.
There were some other
the borough.
headlines. There were some other headlines over the weekend in the PWR. I don't know if you noticed. Trailfinders almost beating Quins.
You were at that
You were
game.
I was at the game, and I was sat next to Nick Heath and Danelle Lochner, and I were having a little goss in Afrikaans about Philippa Tatiet saying this could be a 50-pointer for Quins. When they were 36-39 ahead, and Danelle just said to me, "Don't look at me, don't even." But congratulations to Quins; they pulled it through, 46 points in the end for them. It was fun though because Kate Zachary put the clip of Philippa Tatiet saying this could be a 50-pointer in the WhatsApp group.
That's funny. Sorry, it made me think of something else. they had to decide whether they played or not.
I know. I chatted to her about this afterwards, and
What
I
do you
think
Is that
that's
protocol?
What do you mean?
So Kate Zachary and Jade Conkle-Roberts decided it. It was on them, the two captains of each team, as to whether they played the game or not, because the pitch was, from what I understand, arguably frozen.
So Jade said to me, apparently once warm-up starts, now you'd be able to correct us on this, Giselle, but once warm-up starts, it can't be called off by anyone other than the captains.
Right.
And it was at this point that during warm-up, the two of them were walking the pitch trying to figure out whether they need to call it.
But before warm-up, a pitch doesn't freeze in 5 minutes.
I don't know. Like, I just said to her, it looked like everyone was bouncing off of it. Like, it didn't look good. And she said what made it really hard going into the game, she said her head was all over the place because she was really worried about anyone suffering a serious injury.
Yeah.
Because she'd made the decision.
Because she had made that call.
That's what I mean. It should never,
So
ever
I have to
fall
say,
on them.
I've not heard that's the law.
That would be the protocol.
To me, it should be black and white. It's either
referee.
safe or it's not. And that is determined by the person that's put in
referee.
charge. Surely.
Surely.
My understanding, it's the referee that should be making that
Is it?
decision. Yeah.
I think it's
But-
also like the context of it is so difficult. Ealing
Trailfinders.
Trailfinders, don't they have to?
Giselle doesn't care anymore anyway. So.
Yeah.
joking.
Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. But how condensed the league is, like that's a really difficult position to be in, especially when
Exactly.
like the points
Why
are
would you
really
give that
important
game away?
right
There's
now.
one weekend to replay it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
are
then you
they
end up
even
playing
got a?
7 games on the bounce.
And
Yeah.
Trailfinders could have beaten Quins, as we saw in the result there. Like, it was eventually, like, very close.
I think
Mental.
that's awful. I would never want to be in that position.
Yeah.
No.
Yours though.
And we haven't even said Illona once. We're this deep into the show.
I was expecting that early doors, to be fair.
I mean, oh my goodness. The Illona
Crazy.
effect, loads of fans. A big game attendance was still the biggest record number in the league, 18,055. But that obviously was a double header, not a freestanding game. 9,240 fans at Ashton Gate. What did it sound like, Mo Hunt?
It's actually not the record. We
Isn't it?
have the record at Queen's Home.
Oh.
Nicole was really upset about it. She
But
actually
isn't
quote
that in a
tweeted.
regular game?
Well, they
that
didn't
was the
say
final?
regular game though. They said standalone. So there's a little bit of wording according
okay.
to Nicole. Yeah, who you know would get funny about that. She quote tweeted it and just put a waving face and put a picture of the attendance,
Really?
which is
So
like
good.
9,500 something. But anyway, I'm not bothered. It was really, really cool. It was really cool to run out, and obviously not hostile because I don't think Bristol fans are hostile. Do you know what I mean? Like whereas the
But they're
shed,
supporting their team,
the
right?
shed gives you some. You're gonna experience the shed. I am buzzing.
Our game has been moved to Kingsholm rather than the Fort Ed Arena because of the weather.
No, but I am buzzing. You girls, the girls hate the shed.
What
Other
girls?
teams,
Oh,
other
other
teams
teams.
hate the shed. She's gonna
Dun, dun,
experience the shed. Anyway, no, super cool. People just love rugby, and to be fair to her, she did go around and give everybody that waited a selfie after, and I thought fair play. And she had so much media to do.
You helped Trailfinders secure their place in the league. I mean, you were part of the people who managed to get Trailfinders into the PWR, which is a huge achievement, and you played such an important foundational role. What are you most proud of in the work that you did at Trailfinders, outside of getting purple into the iconography?
isn't it?
They
That's
run
really
out
cool.
to
Yeah.
purple.
I know they do.
Do you think that's
It's
going to
in-
stop? or-
No, it's not. Purple in the kit, purple in the things, everything. Yeah, no, that won't stop. And there were reasons behind that to make it different, so that the women's shirts would be different to the men's. So
To
that
the
you could buy
men's.
women's shirts and you could do whatever.
Yeah.
So, and I actually think the colours go very well. To be fair.
Green and purple.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
Wimbledon, isn't it?
Fair.
Oh, very true.
I mean, if it's good enough for Wimbledon,
Exactly.
SW19.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
If anything's good enough, then it's good enough. Anyway, yeah, nothing to a whole team and staff. There was nothing. No women's. They had an NC3 team, but that obviously wasn't going to. And we went in with a team that could compete from day one. I'm incredibly proud of that.
Can you tell us why you left?
There's a certain things that I believe around the women's game and how things should happen, and I'd set up a program and knew I had a vision for it, knew where it was going, was told that was the thing with it, and then the vision didn't necessarily match with others, I think. So I stand true to what I believe in, and I've always done that. And it's very difficult to explain because it all happens so fast. And it's sad because I felt that I was building something incredibly special.
Yes.
But no team is always bigger than one person, isn't it? So I was surplus to requirements at that moment, and so I watch it now from afar. And now I'm doing something else.
I can tell you why I was devastated, outside of the fact that these girls only have good things to say about you, and I knew that you were doing important work there. If you look at this beautiful table that producer Shira made for me, it's color-coded and everything. There's no purple on it. Head coaches in the league in 23-24, Sean Lynn, Nathan Smith, Alex Austerbury, Dave Ward, and then Susie Appleby, Rachel Taylor, Amy Turner, Giselle, Vicky McQueen, Joe Yap. More women than men. In 24-25, there are 2 women left. And unfortunately, at international level, the indictment is much stronger because of England, Canada, New Zealand, France, Australia, Ireland, Scotland, Italy, USA, and Wales. For 2 years, it was only Gaël Mignot and David Ortiz co-coaching in France until Joe Yap was appointed in Australia. We are just seeing great women doing great things at PWR level, and we are seeing them moving to GB7s, which is great. And obviously we have great hopes for someone like a Rachel Taylor to take up an international position somewhere. LJ Lewis is under 20s, right?
Yeah.
For England. But England women...
Lou Meadows,
and Sarah Hunter, yes.
They're involved.
But England has never had a woman coaching the women's team.
Correct.
That's unreal.
So it's evolutionary, isn't it? Let's be honest. So I think and with Trailfinders, that's kind of a bit of what's men have come from the pitch and are now coaching. And I think it is an evolutionary process. And sometimes as well, and this is maybe controversial, as females we don't help that. So let's think about referees. If a female referee walks on a pitch, sometimes people go, oh. Right? Not always, but they do. And that makes it really hard for female referees to progress because there's an attitude that may come. If Catherine Spencer, when you read her book, she's ex-England captain, she writes in her book, the first time she saw me walking towards her as going to be her coach in the thing, she thought, oh God, it's going to be a woman. She says it and she's apologised, and she said, however, turns out to be X, Y, and Z, which is fine. But that was her response, and she's owned it in the book. People have this belief that we're not ready yet, or we're not this and we're not that, and you never find out until you let people do it. And then the problem is then though that you've got to get it right because the next ones are following behind you.
Yes.
And how much support do we have to get that right? Because it is hard. It's a really hard role to be a head coach, and then to be a head coach of a national side. It's hard, and it can be an incredibly lonely place being the head coach because when your team wins, they don't need you. And it's true, they don't need you. Everything's, well, as soon as your team loses, everyone's like, and that's fine. That's the nature of the job. And also you have to deliver the bad selection messages. You have to do this. You have to make unpopular decisions at times. You set the parameters. You set the energy. You set what people, and so it can be a really difficult space. And I think when a female is now doing that in what has always predominantly been a male domain, and now they're very attractive jobs now.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. To coach a women's premiership side, I hate it if people think it used to be a stepping stone or whatever to something else. It isn't. And actually, I think that coaching the women's premiership is harder because of the squad management, because they work, because they do this, because the international rules are different in the men's game. So the men's game, the club gets paid
Squad
for them
size
going
is
off.
different.
Everything, right?
Yeah.
So you so much management to do usually in the evenings as well. So everybody's doing everything. The girls and so the staff are, and then bang, you've got to be really on it between 6 and 9 p.m. as a coach. So it's a really, really hard job. And yet more and more people I think now are realising that they need a female head coach, not necessarily as the head, but the diversity of the coaching team. Because some of the issues that are happening in squads where females are because the males don't necessarily understand coaching a female player and coaching females and what their reactions will be to certain things. So therefore, people are now beginning to realise that, and so the females are now, and the value that we're adding is being recognised, especially when there's problems or difficulties. It's usually, right, let's bring the female coach in to sort it out. And then they realise that the value is there. And we play the game differently. This is my big thing. Females play the game differently to the males. And if you try and impose how men are doing the game onto the women's game, you're not going to be successful because it's different. The attributes that we have when we play the game are different to the men's. And if you go just to a pure power-based game with the female sides, that's not going to bring out the best. And it's also not going to capture the public, which is what we're trying to do. Public wants to see rugby, the ball moving. That's when people get really, really excited. Yes, the purists need to see and I've always quoted with the driving maul. I'm like, and in sevens, there's no driving maul.
Yeah.
Hey, there could be.
I know.
We used to have,
we've done one
we used to have a
once.
three-player driving
Let's
maul.
not go there, all right? Let's not go there. But
No, we scored from it. Got into the final.
So-
it's not there.
Really takes them by surprise.
Houston
Really takes them by surprise.
Houston Sevens back in the day.
Coach
Won the
Giselle
tournament.
says no.
One of the
Tell
only
me
tournaments we won.
Try
Giselle.
to try.
That said,
Try to
my
try.
assistant coach started talking mauls to me the other day, and I was like, looked at him, I was like, no, Will, no.
Doesn't have to be a
Anyway.
dog. You can peel out of it.
I know.
You'll see.
Come on, you two are backs. You shouldn't be so pro. Or you
Pro.
could probably sneak a few tries off the back of some of those.
Gotcha.
Just
Did you
wanna-
see her at the weekend? That was one of them.
Yeah.
Through
Just
the
wanna-
head, through the near dislocated her shoulder.
I did.
Just want to caveat everything I said before by giving props to Japan's coach at the last Rugby World Cup, Leslie McKenzie,
Yes.
the one woman
Yes.
representing at that World Cup. You said on the Telegraph Women's Sports podcast, I totally subscribe to best person for the job. The best person for the job could well be a woman, but society isn't always ready for that. Yeah.
And that's what I mean by being evolutionary. People have to see that we do well, that we do know what we're doing, that we can run these squads before it becomes, it's the see it to be it game again, isn't it? And it's about giving opportunity, and that people, I always really respect the people who've given the opportunity to. So the Joe Yap is such a good coach, and the Aussie people have gone,
Here we go.
yeah,
But does this mean, I just had a thought,
uh-oh.
does this mean that now that you are the GB7's coach, in 2027, when the Lions women tour to New Zealand, you will be the best placed person to coach a team made up of the 4 nations?
Don't look at us.
You can look at me.
I read in the paper the other day that Maggie's backing Mitch to do that job.
Oh, really?
Who is?
Maggie
Max.
Alphonse. Yeah. So again,
You're not answering my question,
Yeah,
though.
no.
That was a
Avoided it.
real
Good at that.
swerve.
I swerved it, but because your communication direct, you brought me straight back onto it. It's a massive opportunity, isn't it? So you would never say, you can't at this stage say no to anything, and anybody can ever say, but I am doing what I'm doing, and every coach will say that. But it's like I had the privilege of doing the first Women's Barbarians, and obviously it's very different. But again, that has a vibe that goes with what it is, and we created that vibe, and it carried on, and it was a fabulous thing.
Okay, so you're Lions coach. You're going to New Zealand 2027. Mo's your captain.
Manifest.
Tell us your staff.
Touchwood.
Who are you taking?
Cool! Wow! What
Scaz
question?
Water carrier.
Scaz, touchwood.
What for now?
Touching-
Touching captain.
Yeah.
Can't touch wood for things like that. Honestly. Sorry, that was a joke.
I would want a staff that's diverse, that has experiences, that you take some that are,
If I'm not playing, I'll be your backs coach.
there you go, you see, different, but diverse.
See the difference between you and I went water carrier, you were backs coach.
Just a really diverse coaching team, real experience, people who understand, like it's bringing players together rapidly from different nations who've beaten
Empathetic.
seven bells out of each other for a long time, and you've got to do that really, really fast. You've got to create a culture really, really fast.
Speaking of GB, you guys so far 4th on 22 points. Dubai, you came 4th, lost to France by 3 in the 3rd place playoff,
That's hard.
having lost to Australia in the semi-final.
Yeah, that was we struggled there. We didn't get that one right at all. But the French game was a fascinating experience because they went down to 6 and we score. They went down to 5 and we didn't get the ball in the whole time. They were down to 5, and they were super smart. Big respect for them. They were super smart.
You should have kept it tight and mauled it.
Stop it! But we didn't even have the ball to call it. We didn't have the ball. But they actually went one thing, 43 seconds where they didn't play the ball.
Wow.
Now that's not allowed in sevens, and it was allowed.
What do you mean?
43 seconds they stood there making a decision about what they were going to do with it and how they were going to do
Smart.
it. The referee,
This is the referee, yeah.
It should be 15 seconds before you.
Yeah.
But they,
I bet you were.
and then, I wasn't over chuffed, but I do have respect for the way that they did that. We managed a yellow card that we picked up against the Irish in the last game of Cape Town, and the girls managed that incredibly well as well. Really, really smart. They played with the ball, but they did, and that's special, because in sevens when you go down to 6, it's not cool, and they did it very, very well. So.
Okay, Cape Town, 7th. Unfortunately, my home city didn't do you any favours. On that topic, when are you going to medal?
So that's a really good question. I think that there's so much around this with the GB7s, because when I was a director of rugby in the PWR, both for Wasps and for Trailfinders, I never got a call asking for a player in my squad to come and play. I've been making calls already all over the place saying, I want this player to come in, I want this player to come in, because I think that's really important. I want players in the PWR to go, I want to be a GB7s athlete. Now, when you look at the current Red Roses backline, you've spent time in the World Series, you've spent time in the World Series. Helena Rowland has, Holly Aitchison has, Jess Breach has, right? And the skill set that you have to have and you have to hone, because there's nowhere to hide, has made a massive difference to why these guys are still being selected and haven't been usurped by younger people, because their skill set is so good, and that was honed when you were little people and in the sevens doing what have you. So
it's a hell of a life as well.
Yeah,
like where you tour and
it's so exciting. It's different.
Winter sun.
But the squad needs a core that stays sevens, and I have a really strong core of sevens girls they are really good. What I want to then do is bring in players for 6 months, a year, however many, to bring them in, and then let's work together with the Red Roses, with Wales and with Scotland to bring players in, spend some time in that environment, learn the skills within just 7 of you coping with that whole pitch. You have to get those skills. You can't survive at that level against the opponents that we play without them. Will is amazing with his technical work. He's so good. And the girls that we've brought in have just gone, their brains have fuzzed afterwards, because they're just like, this fuzz onomatopoeia, have done.
I did think it.
Have done lots of things.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, just happened. Anyway, their brains are fuzzed after, because they've learned so much, because he is, particularly in the contact area and defence work, he's so good. And they're getting so much out of it. So why can't we open that up so that then more players are getting there, the level of the player goes up, then we'll be meddling. Because New Zealand, for example, they've got their next lot all sitting in camps already. They're already,
Boom.
Exactly, right? So that's what we need to do. There's work to be done.
Clip it up.
There's work.
She said boom.
That's another one. They're everywhere.
More care, more connection, more communication.
More opportunity.
Yeah.
It's opportunity. And we have some really good players. Like Renique Bonner came into the thing. She was fab. Absolutely fab. She's now got to go back and play PWR, and she has an opportunity for World Cup. And this year, players that have opportunity for World Cup, I've gone, okay, that's fair. And I really want to see them do well, so that's great. But next year I might be saying, well, they should be doing some time here too, and we've just got to open it up. The directors of rugby, all the nations, the Celtic League, I went down to watch Gwalia against Blethen over Christmas, watched all those young Welsh players playing. It was great. 2 of them have been in camp with me this week as a result. So yeah, I go up to Scotland very soon to watch them, to just again give opportunity to players and say, right, let's see what you do.
I can't wait.
Yeah. But it will take time. It will take time for us to medal. But then again, sevens is very strange.
Yeah. Anything is possible.
Exactly. And it's so fast and so quick that anything can happen.
Is that the ice cream van?
The ice cream van has literally just pulled up outside of us.
It sounds like he's inside.
It's Giselle's phone.
That's my phone. I'm so sorry.
It sounds like the ice cream van.
That's bad. I've
Are we
had it on
picking that
silent
up?
most
Ollie,
of
are
the
we picking that up?
Because the last thing in a meeting you want is your phone to go off when you're the head coach. Not cool.
Not
So
cool.
it's been on
Not
silent,
cool.
and it hasn't happened to me yet. But it will happen. I know it will, but it hasn't yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So good.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
It was
very
brilliant
much.
having you on.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing so much of what you've learned so generously.
Thank you.
Here's
Lots
to a
of
medal.
support. Yeah, absolutely. And lots of support for it all and everything is really, really important. And I think that's where the GB7s girls haven't got the same as the Red Roses, that presence and that out there. And that, honestly, they are phenomenal athletes. They are so good. And when the World Cup happens and the girls win it, when that happens, because we're now in 2025, so I can say that, it's what's the game that the little people go back into school and play first? Sevens. Touch and sevens. Because there isn't enough for them to play 15. So they go back to their schools, we want to do this, we want to be them, we want to do... And that's what they'll play. So mine also need to be in that realm of people realising that that's the standard that the girls are playing to and who they are, so that they become role models as well, so more girls want to play the sport. Not just 7s, 15s, rugby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole church. Thank you so much, Mo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scazzy.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
We've been The Good, the Scaz and the Rugby, brought to you by our good friends from Vodafone. The Good, the Scaz and the Rugby is a Folding Pocket production produced by
Shira Kilgallen.